He didn't ride into that valley looking for a wife. He rode in because the snow behind him was already closing the road, and the cabin ahead was supposed to be empty. It wasn't. 3 women were already living inside it. No husbands, no protection, no intention of leaving, and none of them looked surprised to see him. They looked like they'd been waiting. "I just need a place to sleep," he said. The eldest didn't answer. The sharp one didn't move. Only the third, the quiet one with snow caught in her dark hair, stepped forward. "This land isn't empty," she said, "and neither are we." That was the moment he should have turned around, because by morning, it wouldn't be about shelter anymore. It would be about who he was allowed to become, and who would decide it. The valley lay hidden between 2 broken ridgelines in the northern stretch of the Colorado Territory. Late winter, the kind that didn't end cleanly, just lingered, cold and stubborn, like something unfinished. Ethan Hale rode in with a horse that was limping and a pass that refused to stay buried. Snow clung to his coat in uneven patches. His beard hadn't seen a blade in weeks. Every movement in his body carried weight, not just from the cold, but from the miles behind him. He wasn't chasing anything anymore. He was just not stopping. The storm had started 2 days earlier, not loud, not violent, just steady, relentless, the kind that closed roads without asking and buried tracks like they never existed. By the time he saw the cabin, he already knew he didn't have another night left in him. It stood alone near a frozen creek, timber walls darkened by years of weather, a narrow porch half buried in snow. Smoke curled from the chimney. That was the only reason he didn't turn away, because smoke meant fire, and fire meant someone had survived this place longer than he had. Ethan slid off the saddle slower than he intended. His boots hit the ground, and for a second the world tilted. His horse exhaled hard behind him, just as tired, just as close to done. He stepped forward anyway, no hand on his gun, no warning call, just honesty. "I ain't here for trouble," he said, voice rough from cold and silence. "Just need a roof. One night." The wind shifted. The cabin door creaked open. 3 women stepped out, not together, not rushed, one by one, like they already knew exactly what they'd find. The first, older, stood straight despite the cold, her posture calm, controlled, the kind that didn't need to prove authority. The second leaned slightly against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes sharp, measuring him like a problem waiting to happen. And the third, she stayed half a step behind. Asian, late 20s, bright eyes that didn't challenge, but didn't yield either. Snow rested in her dark hair like it belonged there, like she had been standing in storms long before this one. Ethan met their gaze, didn't explain himself, didn't soften the truth. "I don't got anything to offer," he said. "No trouble, no lies. Just need to not freeze tonight." Silence settled between them, not empty, measured. The older woman studied him first, not his face, not his weapon, his hands, his stance, the way he held himself, like someone who had already lost enough to stop pretending. The sharp one exhaled through her nose, unimpressed. "He looks like he brings trouble," she muttered. The third woman didn't speak right away. She stepped forward instead, close enough to see the frost along his collar, the way his fingers stiffened from cold, the way exhaustion sat behind his eyes. "You can stand," she said quietly, "which means you're not done yet." Then she turned toward the door. "Come inside," she added, "but understand something first." Ethan didn't move. Not yet. Her voice didn't rise, didn't threaten. It didn't need to. "This place," she said, glancing back at him, is not something you pass through. Ethan looked past her, at the dim light inside, at the fire he could already feel on his skin, at the only shelter left in miles of white silence. Then he stepped forward, across the threshold. And without knowing it, he stopped being a man just passing by. He stepped into something that would ask him to stay, not because he wanted to, but because leaving might not be his choice anymore. Morning came without asking, not with sunlight, but with the slow crack of wood settling in the cold and the quiet breath of a fire that had never gone out. Ethan woke on a narrow cot near the wall. For a moment he didn't move, didn't reach for his gun, didn't check the door, just listened. Wind outside, soft movement inside. 3 different rhythms of footsteps, each one distinct. That's what told him he hadn't dreamed it. He sat up slowly. The cabin was small, but nothing in it felt temporary. Tools hung where they were meant to be, supplies stacked with intention. A rifle leaned near the door, clean, maintained, ready. This wasn't a place surviving by luck. This was a place holding its ground. He stepped outside. The cold hit immediately, sharp, honest. The valley stretched out in white silence, mountains closing in like they had no intention of letting anything leave. And then he saw them again. The older woman stood near a split log, steady hands guiding the axe down with precise, practiced force. The sharp one, already watching him, leaned against the fence line, arms crossed like she'd been waiting. And the third. She was kneeling by a small fire pit, adjusting something in a pot, movements quiet, efficient. All 3 turned at the same time, not surprised, just aware. "You slept," the older woman said. Ethan nodded once. "Better than I should have." She studied him for a second longer, then gave a small nod. "I'm Mara." The sharp one pushed off the fence. "Lena," she said flatly. "No need to remember it if you're leaving." The third woman stood. Her eyes met his, steady, unreadable in a different way. "Lynn," she said softly. The name settled differently than the others, quieter, but harder to ignore. Ethan shifted his weight. "Ethan Hale." Mara handed him a tin cup. "Drink." He took it, warm, bitter, real. It had been a long time since anything had tasted like care. No one spoke while he drank, but he could feel it. They weren't just watching him, they were placing him, piece by piece. "You came alone," Lena said suddenly. "Yeah." "No one looking for you?" Ethan didn't answer right away. Then, "No one left to." Silence followed. Not awkward. Recognizing. Mara set the axe down. "This land belonged to our husbands," she said, "before the winter took them." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. "Storm?" Lena shook her head. "Men." That told him enough. Not nature, not accident. Something worse. Mara continued, voice calm but firm. 3 claims, 1 cabin, 1 winter. She gestured lightly around. "We stayed." Ethan glanced at the ridge. "You're far from town." "That's the point," Lena said. Lynn stepped closer now, just enough to be heard without raising her voice. "People don't come here unless they're lost," she said. Her eyes didn't leave his. "Or running." Ethan let out a slow breath. "Which one you think I am?" Lynn tilted her head slightly. "I think you haven't decided yet." The wind shifted again, carrying loose snow across the ground. Mara picked the axe back up. "If you stay today," she said, You work. No negotiation, no softness, just terms. Ethan nodded once. Fair. Lena tossed him a pair of worn gloves. Fence lines breaking near the creek. Fix it right, or don't bother coming back inside. Ethan caught the gloves, looked at them, then at the land stretching out in every direction, cold, silent, waiting. This wasn't shelter. Not really. This was evaluation. He walked toward the fence without another word. Snow crunched under each step. The air bit harder the further he went, but something inside him, something that had been numb for too long, started to wake up. Behind him, on the porch, the three women stood in quiet stillness, watching. Not like strangers, like people deciding whether he was worth letting stay. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan didn't feel like running. He felt like he might have to earn something, something harder than survival. A place. By the second day, the silence had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was watching him work. The fence line stretched along the frozen creek, half buried under snow and neglect, posts leaning, wires snapped, the kind of damage that didn't come from weather alone. Ethan worked without being told twice, hands steady, movements efficient, no wasted motion. But not fast. He checked each post, reset the ones that could still hold, replaced what couldn't. Patience. That's what Mara noticed first. She stood a few yards away, arms folded beneath her shawl, saying nothing, just observing. You don't rush broken things, she said finally. Ethan didn't look up. Rushing's how they break worse. Mara gave a small nod. Approval. Earned, not given. Later that afternoon, Lena found him by the creek. No warning, no greeting. A blade landed in the snow beside him. Ethan looked down, then up at her. Pick it up, she said, or I'll assume you don't plan on surviving here. He didn't argue, didn't ask why. He picked it up. What followed wasn't training. It wasn't friendly. It was a test. Lena moved fast, forcing him to react, not think. Step, turn, block. Too slow, and she was already behind him. Snow kicked up under their boots. Steel flashed once. Twice. Ethan barely caught her wrist before the blade touched his side. They froze like that for a second. Close. Breathing hard. Lena's eyes searched his face. Not for strength. For hesitation. She pulled back first. You're holding back, she said. Ethan wiped the edge of his glove across his mouth. Or thinking. Hesitation gets people killed. Sometimes, he replied. Sometimes it keeps them alive long enough to choose different. That made her stop, just for a second. Then she smirked, faint but real. Not useless, she admitted. Respect, beginning where suspicion used to sit. By evening, the sky turned the color of iron. The cold deepened, the kind that pressed in quietly until it was already inside your bones. Ethan sat on the edge of the porch, elbows resting on his knees. The valley stretched out before him again, white, endless, indifferent. It should have felt the same, empty. It didn't. Footsteps approached, soft, measured. He didn't turn. Most men who come through here, Lynn said gently, don't stay past the first night. Ethan let out a slow breath. Most men don't have nowhere else to go. She stepped closer, stopping just beside him, but not too close. Always space, always choice. That's not the same thing, she said. He glanced at her. Feels like it. Lynn shook her head slightly. Nowhere is when the world closes. Not leaving is when you choose to stay inside it. That settled deeper than he expected. Ethan looked back out at the valley. You always talk like that? A faint smile touched her lips, only when someone's listening. He huffed a quiet breath. Been a long time since I did that. They sat like that for a while. No pressure, no need to fill the space. Just the sound of wind moving through the trees, and the fire cracking behind them. "You're not just fixing fences," Lynn said after a moment. Ethan frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" She turned her gaze toward him now. "People who are just passing through don't fix things they won't come back to." Ethan didn't answer, because he didn't have one, not a clean one. Before he could say anything else, Mara's voice cut through the quiet. "It's time." Both of them turned. Lena was already standing near the fire, Mara beside her, serious, still. Something had shifted, not in the land, in them. Ethan stood slowly. "What for?" he asked. Mara held his gaze. "For deciding," she said. "Deciding what?" Lena crossed her arms. "If you're just another man hiding from winter, or someone worth letting stay when it ends." The fire crackled louder than it should have, or maybe everything else had gone quiet. Ethan looked at each of them, Mara's steady calm, Lena's guarded edge, and Lynn's quiet, searching eyes. 2 days ago, he had ridden into this valley just trying not to die. Now, he was being asked if he was ready to live somewhere again, and he didn't know which answer scared him more. Night settled hard over the valley. Not quiet. Heavy. The kind of silence that came before something broke. The fire burned at the center of the cabin, low but steady. Shadows stretched long across the walls, shifting with every crack of wood. Ethan stood near the door. Didn't sit. Didn't lean. Didn't belong to the comfort yet. Mara stood opposite him, hands folded, posture calm as ever. Lena lingered near the window, eyes scanning the dark beyond the glass. And Lynn stayed closer to the fire. Not hiding, not retreating, just grounding the room. "You felt it today," Mara said. Not a question. Ethan nodded once. "Yeah." Lena's voice came sharp from the window. "They're back!" That changed everything. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Who?" Mara didn't look away from him. "The men who took this land from our husbands," she said calmly. "They don't come often. But when they do, they don't come to talk." A sound carried through the night, distant at first, then clearer. Hooves. More than one. Ethan stepped toward the door, instinct already moving faster than thought. Lena was ahead of him, rifle in hand, loaded. "You don't get to decide yet," she said without turning. "If you stay, you stand with us." Ethan reached for his gun anyway. Wasn't planning on sitting this one out. Not anymore. Mara nodded once. "Then listen carefully," she said. "No panic. No wasted words. They will test first, see if we're alone, see if we're weak." Lena cracked the door open just enough to look. 3 riders, silhouettes against the snow, slow, confident, like they believed this place already belonged to them. "Same as before," Lena muttered. 3. Ethan exhaled slowly. 3 men, 3 women, and one choice he hadn't made yet, already closing in on him. Lynn stepped closer, not to the door, to him. "You don't owe us anything," she said quietly. "You can leave now, take the back path. The storm covered most of it." Ethan looked at her, really looked, the way she held herself, not asking, not begging, giving him the choice, even now. Outside, a voice called out, rough, careless. "Cabin's still standing," one of the riders laughed. "Means you ladies didn't learn." Another voice followed. "Open up, we'll make it easy this time." Ethan's hand tightened slightly around his gun. His instinct, old, familiar, told him to move, to leave, to survive. That's what he had always done. Walk away before things turned into something he couldn't fix. But something in him didn't move this time, didn't step back. Instead, he stepped forward, past Lynn, toward the door. Lena glanced at him, surprised for half a second. "Thought you hadn't decided yet," she said. Ethan pushed the door open just enough to stand in the frame. Cold rushed in instantly. So did the tension. "I just did," he replied. The three riders shifted in their saddles, surprised to see a man where there hadn't been one before. "Didn't know you had company," one of them sneered. Ethan didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. "They're not alone." The wind picked up, cutting between them. Snow drifted across the ground, blurring edges, but not intent. "Last chance," another rider called. "You walk away, this ain't your problem." Ethan's answer came quiet, steady. "No." Behind him, he could feel it. Mara's calm resolve, Lena's sharpened focus, Lynn's quiet presence, closer than before. Not behind him, with him. The first shot came from outside, fast, loud. It shattered the night. Ethan moved on instinct, ducking, pulling Lena back as wood splintered near the frame. "Inside!" Mara commanded. No panic, only control. The door slammed shut. The cabin became something else instantly. Not shelter. A line between what they had and what someone else wanted to take. Lena reloaded without hesitation. "3 of them," she said. "We hold, they circle." Mara nodded. "Then we don't let them." Ethan checked his weapon. Hands steady now. Clear. Whatever hesitation Lena had seen earlier was gone. He took position beside the window. Snow, movement, shadow shifting. "They'll try the back," he said. Mara looked at him once, measuring. Then, a small nod. "Then we meet them there." Outside, the riders spread out. Inside, 4 people moved without needing to speak. Not strangers anymore. Not just survivors. Something else. Something being decided, right now. Ethan glanced once toward Lynn. She met his eyes. No fear. Just understanding. And in that moment, he realized something that hit harder than the gunfire outside. If he walked away now, he wouldn't just be leaving a cabin. He'd be leaving the first place that had asked him to stay, and meant it. The first man came through the back, not careful, not quiet. Confident. That was his mistake. The door burst inward under a heavy kick, snow and cold spilling across the floor with him. Ethan was already there. One step, one shot. The man dropped before he could even raise his rifle. No hesitation this time, not even a flicker. Outside, the other 2 reacted fast. Gunfire cracked against the cabin walls, sharp, splintering wood tearing through the night. Lena moved like she'd been waiting for this. She slid along the wall, reloaded, fired once through the narrow window. A grunt answered from outside. "Hit one," she muttered. Mara didn't rush, didn't waste movement. She repositioned the table, blocking part of the doorway, turning the small cabin into something defensible, intentional. "Stay low," she said calmly. Lynn stayed near the fire, not frozen, not afraid. Her eyes tracked every movement, Ethan's, Lena's, the shifting shadows outside. Present, grounded, the kind of steady that held everything else together. The second man tried the side, footsteps crunching fast, then a shadow at the window. Ethan fired through the glass before the barrel cleared. The shot echoed hard. Silence followed, short, uncertain. Then, the last rider, still out there, still moving, circling, waiting. Smart one, Lena muttered. He'll try to wait us out. Ethan shook his head slightly. No, he said. He'll try to break us. As if on cue, a torch flared to life outside, flame against the dark, against the snow. He's gonna burn it, Lena said, tension snapping tight in her voice. Mara didn't react immediately, just watched, calculated. Then, we end it, she said. Ethan didn't wait for more. He stepped toward the door. Lynn's voice stopped him, soft but enough. Ethan. He turned. She stepped closer, just once. Close enough for him to see it clearly now. Not fear, not doubt. Trust. You don't have to do this alone, she said. Ethan held her gaze, then nodded. Good, Lena cut in, already moving, because you won't. The door opened again. Cold slammed into them. So did the moment. The last rider stood near the edge of the clearing, torch in one hand, rifle in the other. He smiled when he saw them. Should have left when you had the chance, he called out. Ethan stepped forward into the snow, not rushing, not hiding, standing. You first, he replied. The man raised his rifle, too slow. Lena fired first, forcing him to shift. Ethan moved at the same time, closing distance, not retreating. The torch dropped. Snow hissed as flame met ice. One shot, then another, then silence. The valley stilled again. No more movement, no more voices, just wind and breath. Ethan stood there a second longer, gun still in his hand, chest rising slow. Alive, but something else, too. Not running, not anymore. Behind him, the cabin door creaked open. Mara stepped out first. She looked at the bodies once, then at Ethan. No praise, no surprise, just a small, certain nod. You chose, she said. Lena exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders for the first time. Not bad for a man who wasn't staying, she muttered. Lynn came last. She didn't speak right away, just stood beside him, close enough to feel the warmth returning after the cold. You can still leave, she said quietly. Ethan looked out across the valley. The same land, the same snow. But it didn't feel like something to escape anymore. It felt like something that had held, waited, made space. He lowered his gun slowly. No, he said. I think I'm done leaving. Silence settled again, but different now. Not empty. Full. Mara turned back toward the cabin. Then tomorrow, she said, we rebuild the fence properly. Lena smirked faintly. And you're fixing that window. Ethan let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. Yeah, he said. I figured. Lynn didn't move, still beside him, her gaze steady. You understand what staying means. Ethan met her eyes. This time, no hesitation. Yeah. It means I don't get to run when things get hard. It means I earn it. Every day. Lynn nodded once. That was enough. For both of them. The fire inside the cabin burned steady again. The wind moved across the valley, unchanged, indifferent. But inside that small stretch of land, something had shifted. Not claimed, not taken. Chosen. And for the first time in years, Ethan Hale wasn't a man passing through the cold. He was a man, standing somewhere that could become home.